This is a pretty simple recipe to whip up in the middle of the night. It's pretty much just fava beans, corn, and TVP, or textured vegetable protein. So it is completely vegan. There's also a bit of paprika in there, just to give it a bit of kick to it. This looks really good, so I'm gonna have a bite. You can definitely taste that paprika. I don't know about you, but when I stay up late all night working on an assignment or a project that's due, there's nothing better than just taking a moment to have some food. The corn in this is great. It really does give a nice sort of crunchiness to it. You know, maybe because it's in the middle of the night, or maybe because Halloween just passed, but there's something that happened to me that I want to tell you about. It's kind of a spooky story. My friend and I decided to just go on a spur-of-the-moment road trip, and we didn't really plan ahead of time. We didn't know where we were going to go, where we were going to stay. We just knew we wanted to see some scenery, do something crazy, and hang out in another town for a day or two. So night comes and we realize we haven't booked a hotel. We don't know where we're going to sleep. So we head to the local Holiday Inn, and they're all booked up because there was some sort of festival or Oktoberfest happening in town. So we decide instead to go to this really awesome, quaint-looking historical hotel that's right at the center of town. It looks like something out of a movie, all old stone and brick. We went into the hotel, and oddly enough, there was no one around the lobby. And mind you, this was supposed to be a busy weekend in this town because of the festival going on. And all the furniture in the lobby is very old-fashioned. You know, it looked like it was right out of the Victorian era. It looked like the kind of place where time ask for a room, expecting him to tell us that they're all booked up for the weekend. And to our surprise, he's like, oh, yeah, we have plenty of rooms. And he goes to get the room key, and we're shocked because, I was expecting him to give us one of those plastic, magnetized keys like credit cards, something very modern. But he actually goes to a wall that's filled with cubby holes with a key in each one. It was like something I don't only see in movies, and he brings out this old key that's like, it's a skeleton key. It's made of copper or brass, and it was strange and awesome and hilarious because I've never been given a key like this. So we get up to our floor, and we're kind of shocked by what we see because the hallways are kind of like a labyrinth. The walls go in strange directions. The ceiling is kind of uneven and odd, and once again, everything looks like how it would have looked 100 years ago. Old-fashioned wallpaper. It was awesome, but at this point, we're feeling just a little uneasy. We were sort of joking to each other in the elevator, but now we just sort of both fall completely silent because this place is just so odd. So we look at our key, and on the end there's a brass tag that says room 417. So we walk down the hall, and we realize one thing that's unnerving about this place is we still haven't seen any other guests. We don't hear any televisions or the sound of life anywhere on this floor, so we really do feel like we're all on our own. Then we're struck by this odd door halfway down. It looks like a regular door, except it's about the size of a toddler with a tiny little doorknob in it, and even a little hatch with a key. It kind of reminded me of the door in Alice in Wonderland that she goes through to get to the garden. But in that context, it was just a lot creepier. You can't help but thinking when you see a small door like that, what's it for? Who's it for? I need a bite of this before I continue. This is really good. Anyways, where was I? Right, so we were walking down the hall, and we find our door, room 417. Just to make it even creepier, directly across from our door, where there should have been a door to another room, was a piece of dark, heavy construction plastic, translucent so we could see through it. And on the other side, where there should have been a door in a room, was just blackness. So clearly they were doing some sort of renovation work to that room directly across from room 417 where we were staying. And but it just looked completely creepy because you can't see what might be waiting or hiding inside the shadows. So we put the old-fashioned key into the old-fashioned lock, and we turn it, and we go inside. And pretty much it's what you would expect. Furniture is all Victorian looking. There are paintings on the wall of people dancing in Victorian gowns, and it was all very beautiful. At the time, honestly, I was feeling kind of odd, somewhat uneasy in the room, and I didn't really know why. We pack away all our stuff, and we was I again? So we have a great night out. Honestly, we didn't say it to each other at the time, but we were both dreading going back to the hotel. We went into our hotel room, we said our goodnights, and we tried to sleep. Now, I'm not someone who's superstitious, and I'm not someone who actually particularly believes in ghosts, but it was one of the strangest, creepiest nights of my life. Eventually I did fall asleep, and I could hear my friend snoring in the bed next to mine. Suddenly I woke up in the middle of the night, and you know that feeling where you're sure someone is in the room with you, or someone is watching you. And it occurred to me, I heard a strange sound, and it sounded like someone walking on the old wooden floors inside of our hotel room, at the foot of my bed, back and forth. Suffice it to say, we didn't sleep that well, and I woke up 3 or 4 times, and each time I thought I heard everything from a door opening to more footsteps. And in one case, I was convinced someone was touching me or my blankets, but when I would become fully awake, there would be no one there. So I chalked it up to sleeping in a strange, unfamiliar place. Well, the next morning, I woke up, and to my surprise, my bed sheets had been pulled off my body, and I knew they'd been pulled off because they weren't just rucked up by my feet on the floor. They were folded neatly. I looked up for my friend, and he was sleeping soundly, but same thing, his blankets were folded up at his feet. Instead of staying there that night, we actually checked out and ended up driving until we found this crappy motel. I mean, it looked like the Bates Motel, but it felt safer. Well, when I got home, I did some research on this place. Now, this is what I discovered. I'm getting chills just thinking about it. A drink of water before I continue. So back to my story. Apparently there was a maid that worked at this hotel, and there was a horrible accident, a gas main explosion in one of the rooms, and she was horribly disfigured and burnt all over her body, and she survived for a few days, but eventually died. This maid was killed in room 417, the very room my friend and I were sleeping in. But wait, it gets creepier. So around the turn of the century, there was another person, a bellhop, who worked at this hotel. Well, one day he apparently brought a guest instead of 1938, it's spelled 1893. And in the description of this piece of art about why these four photos spell out 1893, said because that was the date the hotel opened. So I thought maybe I was remembering things wrong. Maybe it didn't actually say 1938 when I saw it. So I went and talked to my friend, and he had taken a picture of these four photos hanging on the wall on his iPhone. Sure enough, it said 1938, and not 1893. So what, you might be thinking? The bellhop who confessed, perhaps, to killing that hotel patron. The bellhop who killed himself in the room directly across from ours. He killed himself in that room in 1938. Complete chills going down my spine right now. So, we think either there were ghosts fussing around with these four photos and they changed the order to spell this out, or maybe someone working at the hotel has a really morbid sense of humor. Either way, this whole experience was the closest I got to being a Stephen King novel. Anyways, chills just thinking about it. There's nothing like a late night snack and a late night horror story to go hand in hand. Well, I think I've had enough for a late night snack. Alright, I lied. My late night snack isn't quite over. I'm gonna have some of these brown rice crackers. These are store-bought, and I like them because they have a great crunch, and they're filled with brown rice, wild rice, and all sorts of things that are generally good for you. But there is one thing I actually am not so crazy about when it comes to this brand. They add way too much salt to it, and salt is a great thing. I love salt, but it's not the healthiest thing to be putting in your body in large amounts. So what I do is I soak the chips in a bowl of water for about 5 to 10 minutes, and these are crunchy enough that they still maintain a lot of their crunch, but after you take it out of the water, a lot of the salt on the surface has sloughed off of it, and it actually it tastes better to me that way because it was so oversalted when it came out of the bag that all you taste is salt, and it's a lot better this way. I know that sounds weird, that I dip my chips in water first to get rid of the salt, but it's a good trick if you ever want to use it. said these will have quite a nice amount of crunch. These are seriously addictive. I need a tissue. Well, I think I'm all done, and I don't think I can manage another bite. There's a limit to how much you can eat on a late night snack. This was fun, and I'm really glad you could join me today because